First, we have to give it up for the shirt. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Z, the Ginger GM, and today we're going to be talking about the inspiration that is actual plays. I'm known within my TTRPG circle for being an avid consumer of actual plays. Twice a year, I go through all the actual plays that I have watched or considered watching and create a list called the Dragon Horde. The Dragon Horde includes all seasons titled of the actual plays that I consume, starting with Dimension 20, and my computer's off screen with the list. Starting with Dimension 20, going to Dungeons and Daddies, Critical Role, Bards of New York, and Real Housewives of Dungeons and Dragons, and Gals and Goblins. I now, as of today, get to add Venture Forth, because I'm all caught up on Venture Forth. Gets categorized into finished, currently watching / listening, rewatched, abandoned, or I haven't started it yet. Also, for context, guys, I watch most of these shows at either 1.5 or 2 times speed. There's too much happening. There's too many things. And that is how I get through them. Especially combat. I cannot watch combat slow. That entire thing exists. And that's why I have decided to talk about TTRPG Actual Plays today. See, it is a well-known fact in, again, my TTRPG circle that I never really fully read the Dungeon Master's Guide. I don't DM D&D anymore. I DM Kids on Bikes, Kids on Brooms, and Teens in Space. That's my domain. But before I did that, I ran a D&D 5e game, and I played in a D&D 5e game. And I played in a homebrew space game, but that's a whole different story for a different day. With being someone who watched TTRPGs, the Game Master's Guide and the Player's Guide always felt overwhelming. I tried to check them out. I read chunks of them. I never was able to read the whole thing. That's just not something I physically can mentally handle. So before I even got to playing, I listened to Dungeons and Daddies. Scene change. Not to get all teacher, but actual plays come with learning, so I'm going to be. In the world that we live in, manuals for different systems aren't always accessible. One, they can be expensive. There are some that aren't. There are some that are free. But a lot of the times, they're more expensive. They're also inaccessible for the reasons of they can be language dense. They're not always easy to understand. That's one of the reasons I just couldn't learn parts of Dungeons and Dragons. And pedagogically speaking, learning styles aren't fully you can't learn this thing if you do it in something that isn't your learning style. It's just that you learn something better if you do it in your learning style, or learn something quicker if you do it in your learning style. And so people who are visual learners might learn combat easier through actual plays, or might learn spells better through actual plays, might learn whole systems better through actual plays. Actual plays also aren't accessible. Some of them are behind paywalls. Some of them are excruciatingly long. Some of them only have audio. Some of them don't have captions and things like that. So we live in a world where there's different options, and actual plays are creating another option. When I started to actually try to plan a game with my friends, I was reading sections of the player's guide or the player's handbook, and I think it is important to note that every table has its own rules. Every table is loose with things. When I first started playing, it was about a year after I had started listening to the content. I picked to play a bard, like Glenn Close. And like Glenn Close, I had no idea how to use bardic inspiration. And people try to explain it to me. I used it sparingly at best, trying to understand it. I didn't know how to use most of my features. I didn't really know how to do combat. And then that campaign ended, and I got a dropout subscription with my friend. And I discovered Critical Role. My obsession with Critical Role is not for the faint of heart. Over the course of 4 months, I watched the entirety of Campaign 1, Campaign 2, and where they were at with Campaign 3. At one point, I was up to date. That was over 2 years ago. I have not been up to date since. I have abandoned Campaign 3. But while I have no real grasp of the severity and how to actually run a fully successful combat, I was able to, in my first year of DMing, run a combat. I wouldn't call it successful. And that is when I discovered, after that campaign that I ran, that combat-based games weren't exactly my thing. I mean, we're talking about a person who found her love for TTRPGs through Dungeons and Daddies. They are known, yes, they do combat. Anthony's great at combat. But they are rules, like a rule of cool, genuinely more character-based. Like, that whole plot is character development central. With Cthulhu and Will being the DM, it's been a little bit different, but yet again, mostly a character-based podcast. And that is where I have found my love for things. That is why when I watched Dimension 20, I adored the Bria seasons. I love Brennan Lee Mulligan. He is one of my favorite DMs. Abria is my favorite DM. Like, by far. Full, just character storylines are where my heart lives. And that's why my favorite seasons that Brennan runs are Fantasy High, Never After, and Unsleeping City. Because the character moments, yes, those seasons have beefy combat moments. I get through them. Venture Forth, great combat. Seth does an amazing job. But my true heart lies, and I'm saying this after watching January 7th's upload of the VOD, characters like Calic, who just, I'm crying. Like, I'm crying with Shane as all this Calic talking to Famir stuff is happening. And like the best moments, in my personal opinion, are that of just pure emotion that comes from actual play. And I, as a DM, feel as though I have gotten better and better with that aspect, picking the story moments from watching actual plays. I was very much in my own head that first campaign that I ran, and my players can attest to that. And while they often times give me praise for that campaign, there was a lot of things I didn't do that well, or the way that I would do them now. And one of those things was wanting certain moments to happen, or expecting moments to happen one specific way. And I was flexible with them in the end, but I felt very constricted in that story. As I have grown as a DM, gone into more collaborative world building, and watched more actual plays, I feel as though I'm a better DM. And I know I watch an absolutely wild amount of actual plays. Maybe an unhealthy amount. I've gotten a lot better. The Critical Role thing only happened because I was very isolatory that year. There are so many things I could say about actual plays. Seeing a wide variety of DM styles. Like, in all honesty, I'm glad for where I began, but I wish that I saw an even wider variety. Yes, Brennan, Matt, and Anthony all have wildly different styles, but I wish that I had seen things sooner from Abria. Even though I did watch Misfits and Magic pretty early on in my dropout subscription era, but that was the only thing that I watched at the time. I wish I saw Bards of New York earlier. I wish I had Gals and Goblins earlier, Venture Forth earlier, all of these things earlier, because I think the wide variety of tables is important. Learn from different tables, whether that be safety mechanics, art form, DM style, player style, vulnerability, communication, character types, everything. Just take it all in. They're also good because not everybody has a chance to have as diverse of a table as they want, and it's important to hear diverse stories. I love watching and listening to Daniel speak. I love listening to stories from LGBTQ creators speak. Actual plays just are another way that the world is opened up. This year as a DM specifically, I have taken to thinking of things as more of behind the scenes. When you look at actual plays, there's so much going on. Things are constructed and they have teams. Some of those teams are the players themselves, like Bards of New York and Gals and Goblins. Some of them have full broad scope teams. But when you zoom out, it's very interesting, just the way that things go. I have always ran bigger tables. You can see my other video about that. And I think that has to do slightly with watching Dimension 20, specifically the Intrepid Heroes and Critical Role. Those tables are massive. But Venture Forth and Gals and Goblins are small tables. Like, there's 3 people. There's 3 gals and a DM in Gals and Goblins. Current Venture Forth, 4 players and a DM. You can watch my other video. I'm playing with 9 people next year. We're not going to talk about that. But like right now, I have 6 players. And the way I had my table set up for the longest time, we are in a classroom. I had it my table, 2 long tables, and a different table at the top. Our classroom has long tables. I felt so far away from my players. So this year, we took a more trapezoid shape. Something that from pictures and things looks similarly to how the dome is set up. And I feel like I have a better grasp of people when I am now closer to them. And while it takes energy, and sometimes I don't do it, I started decorating my table. That was something I did my first year as DM. Very slightly for special occasion type of things, like when they were in a temple, I would lay out crystals and stuff like that. I have an entire decoration set up now, and I didn't use it as much in the last few sessions that we had just because things were all over the place with winter break coming up, but it immerses us a little bit more. I play Kids on Brooms and Kids on Bikes, and personally believe that the tokens used also help immerse us. So being set in the 70s and in a magic world, very similarly to how in Misfits and Magic they got wands, me and my best friend Note Taker went out and found sticks. And while they haven't been the same sticks and we don't have them at every session, those sticks are their wands and they get to pick which ones they use. Something in seeing how different players interact with each other has always been very key to me. The first year I was DM, I didn't really know my players. And I got to know them, but that came with other things as well. Like, that came with outside intentions and being friends outside of the table. I didn't know other people at my table the first time I played, and that came through. These people who make actual plays oftentimes are friends or know each other well outside of the table. And it shows. And as I have become a DM for my 3rd campaign now, going into my 4th, the pure, unadulterated emotion I get at the table from people who are friends is so wonderful to see. Going from session 1 to session 14 of my 2nd campaign, most of my players very briefly knew each other. A lot of them were new to the school, new to college. and were brought together for this campaign. By the end, we were crying with each other as we did 5, 10, 15, and 20-year epilogues for their characters, saying how they stayed in each other's lives after the fact. And that takes knowing someone. In this campaign, it's most of the same party, some new individuals, but people who already know each other. And the first thing we talked about during session 1, because we had a digital session 0 over the course of the summer, in that session 1, I said, you guys can hate each other. You guys wouldn't like each other, actually. Your characters wouldn't get along. And there were some amazing role play moments because of that. And I would not have felt comfortable at a table of strangers saying, you guys can hate each other. I don't want you guys to get along. I would not have done that. And at one point I said, okay, that's enough. You guys do have to start liking each other, spending time with each other, just so the story could move along. That doesn't mean there's not conflict. Now that they like each other, there's even more conflict, even, because there's caring and there's emotion. Mind you, this is all my personal opinion. This is just me talking about what I see as the art of actual plays and how I have found that in my table. And there is this joke in my campaign that we treat it like a show, but I think it's important to actually treat your game like it's art. There's a joke in the TTRPG community that we are our own small individual fandoms. Treat it like a fandom. I made edits that could not be posted ever because I would just take different edits and edit them together. I can't animate, but I write out animatics, basically like breaking down songs and saying what visuals would go with them. We have somebody who in the party draws and has done fan art. One of my players made the family in Sims once. We have a channel in our Discord called Headcanons. Treat your home game like it's an actual play, like it's a fandom you are a part of. There is so much I can say about actual plays. They're visibly beautiful. They're deeply emotional. They are fun. They come in all lengths, and that being episode or campaign lengths. There's different systems. And yes, I wish there was more kids on bikes and kids on brooms that wasn't just by dropout or things like that. But I want to talk about those systems. Yes, we're not an actual play, but sometimes we record snippets of our sessions, and I hope to do that more because there is something so important about sharing our storytelling, whether it's story times, whether it's actual plays, whether it's snippets. In my actual play community at my college, we have weekly meetings that part of it is our workshops and our skill building. And while I was on the board for that, I pulled inspiration from things I see in these actual plays. Another aspect of our weekly meetings is a thing that at one time was called story time, is now called highlight reel, and that is the sharing of stories. is a moment for our community to share what's happening in their home games. It is their actual play moment. Some parties do dinner after campaigns. Some do debriefs. I think it's important that we take moments to just sit with the stories that we're telling. A third in-between option is people who talk about it on the internet. Yeah, I'm not an actual play, but I've talked about the mechanics. I've talked about homebrew. I tell stories. Especially right now, with 2025 ahead of us, with a more than likely TikTok ban, we are losing that part of our community. We are bringing the community here, though. If you don't already, please go and follow So You Want to Be a Dungeon Master. Go follow Daniel Hardgrove. Follow Haley Whipjack. Follow all of the people that you love and want to hear stories from. I don't really know what else to say. Actual plays are a great benefit to the world in which we live, and the world in which we create. And there's always a joke that there's too many actual plays and that there doesn't need to be more, that other people don't need to make them. Not every game is meant to be an actual play. But I think sometimes they should be treated like one. And yes, not every game should be an actual play. I wish sometimes that other people in the big wide world could see my friends thrive and tell their stories. But our table is for us in the end, and we share snippets of that with the world, but not all of it. Actual plays allow us to see the vulnerability. And yes, a lot of the actual plays that are popular come from the actor sorts. People trained. Literally every single one on this list that I have has actors in it. People who know what they're doing. But that's just another reason why they're good to watch. I have talked to so many people who, in our small community at my school, feel so unsure about the actual roleplay moments. And that is what we have steered more towards in our workshops this year, because we are trying to be more system agnostic, working on the skills that are system agnostic. And not every game is a roleplay game, but being better at improv can help you in combat. But being good at combat won't always help you in roleplay. All of this is really just to say that I really like actual plays, and I think more people should watch them. And there's too many in the world to watch them all. I've watched some of So You Want to Be a Dungeon Master. I haven't even been able to watch any of Unprepared Casters. All of Connie Chang's work, I haven't really been able to watch. There's a Jordan Brown stream, Critical Kindness, soon, and I want to watch it. watching actual plays live is a whole different conversation. That is another thing that is hard, especially because I mentioned earlier, I don't watch on normal speed. So when I watch them live, I get, yeah. Especially when they're late at night. A lot of them happen on the other side of the country from me. So they're at different times. But yeah. Appreciate what we do as an art. Follow Jordan Brown. Because while Jordan doesn't always do stuff related to TTRPGs, there are a wide range of interviews. And yes, he's done Unprepared Casters with Haley, and he's doing this new charity stream and a lot of charity work, which is so important to us. It's another opportunity to learn. Those interviews I've shared with people, being like, look at that beautiful storytelling from these people that he's interviewing. And I'm rambling. Now I'm rambling. But I ramble out of love. So, that being said, I'm going to say my goodbyes and my good nights, my good mornings if you're watching this in the morning. I hope you have a wonderful game and a wonderful day. May the dice be in your favor.